It is the summer of 1281. You are standing on the deck of a warship. Around you, as far as you can see in every direction, there are more ships, 140,000 soldiers, 4,000 vessels, the largest naval invasion force assembled in human history, larger than D-Day, 6 centuries before D-Day existed. The target, Japan. And then the storm comes. In a single night, the entire fleet is gone. Half the men drown. The rest are slaughtered on the beaches. The Japanese name this wind kamikaze, the divine wind. They say the gods themselves destroyed the Mongol Empire's greatest army. But here is what the history books don't tell you. Kublai Khan didn't lose because of a typhoon. He lost because of a decision he made 20 years earlier, a decision that made him the richest ruler on earth and the least Mongol man alive. This is not a story about bad luck. This is a story about what happens when the most powerful empire on earth forgets why it was powerful. If you want more stories like this, the ones they never put in your textbook, subscribe now. It's free. And I promise you, what comes next will change how you think about power. Genghis Khan never ruled from a palace. He ruled from a saddle. He ate what his soldiers ate. He promoted men based on ability, not bloodline, a radical idea in the 12th century. His greatest general, Subutai, was the son of a blacksmith. His finest diplomat, Yelu Chukai, was a conquered enemy he chose to keep alive. The Mongol war machine was not built on cruelty. It was built on speed, on flexibility, on an empire that moved. When Genghis faced walled cities in northern China, he hired Chinese engineers to build siege engines. When he faced Persian cavalry, he changed his tactics. When he fought in winter, he used the frozen rivers as highways. The steppe taught him one law above all others: adapt or die. By the time Genghis Khan died in 1227, his empire stretched from the Pacific to the Caspian Sea. He had not failed in a single major campaign. His grandson inherited all of this. And then slowly, methodically, Kublai Khan dismantled the very thing that made it work. Kublai was different from the moment he took power in 1260. He was cultured. He was curious. He had grown up surrounded by Chinese scholars, Tibetan monks, and Persian merchants. He spoke multiple languages. He collected books. He employed artists. He was, by nearly every measure, a more sophisticated ruler than his grandfather. He was also, for the first time, a Mongol ruler who wanted to be Chinese. He moved the capital from Karakoram, the windswept city in the heart of the steppe, to Khanbalik, the city you now call Beijing. He built walls. He built courts. He built a bureaucracy. He stopped wearing the felt of the steppe and began wearing dragon robes of silk. He called himself the Son of Heaven, the Emperor of China. And the Chinese literati, cautiously, skeptically, began to accept him. This was a remarkable achievement, and it was the seed of his downfall. Because the Mongol war machine did not run on silk, it ran on speed, on cavalry, on the open steppe where a man on horseback could travel 60 miles in a day. The moment Kublai moved his empire into palaces, into bureaucracies, into taxation systems and grain registries, the machine began to slow. And then he pointed that slow machine at Japan. The first invasion of Japan in 1274 should have been a warning. Kublai sent 30,000 men across the Korea Strait. They landed at Hakata Bay. They fought well. Their explosive projectiles and coordinated infantry terrified the Japanese samurai, who were accustomed to single combat, not mass warfare. And yet, they retreated to their ships that first night. A storm rose. They lost hundreds of vessels and thousands of men. They sailed home. You might think bad luck, a storm. But here is what the Marco Polo account doesn't mention, and what the Yuan records quietly confirm. The Mongol commanders didn't trust their Korean-built fleet. The ships were too heavy, the sailors were conscripted, and the generals leading the invasion had spent their careers on horseback, not on water. They were fighting with Mongol ambition and Chinese logistics, assembled in Korea, aimed at Japan. It was not a Mongol army. It was a bureaucratic coalition. 7 years later, Kublai tried again. 140,000 men, the largest fleet ever assembled, and the typhoon finished what the first storm had started. But Japan was not the only failure. 3 times, Mongol armies invaded Vietnam. 3 times, they were forced to retreat, not by storms, but by heat, disease, and a Vietnamese general named Trần Hưng Đạo, who refused to meet the Mongols in open battle and instead turned the jungle into a weapon. A campaign that should have taken weeks stretched into seasons. The Mongol cavalry, supreme on flat ground, floundered in mangrove swamps. In 1293, Kublai launched an invasion of Java. It ended in disaster. His own commanders manipulated by local politics, trapped in unfamiliar terrain, and forced into humiliating withdrawal. 4 major campaigns, 4 failures. His grandfather never failed once. Here is the secret. Genghis Khan won because he understood his own limits. He never fought on terrain that neutralized his advantage. He never built a court that made him soft. He never stopped moving long enough to become something he wasn't. Kublai Khan ruled the largest empire on earth. He was fabulously wealthy, intellectually brilliant, and culturally sophisticated. He presided over a golden age of trade that brought Marco Polo from Venice to his court, that built the Grand Canal, that connected a continent. And yet, the harder he tried to rule like a Chinese emperor, the less he fought like a Mongol conqueror. The two identities were incompatible. You cannot build a palace and a war machine at the same time. Not forever. The Mongol generals who served Kublai were no longer chosen purely on merit. They were chosen through a court, a bureaucracy, a system. The speed was gone. The adaptability was gone. What remained was the name of the Mongol Empire and the fading memory of what had made it feared. 3 things to carry with you. The greatest empires don't fall from the outside. They transform from the inside into something safer, more stable, more comfortable. And in doing so, they lose the instinct that built them. Kublai Khan's Japan campaigns weren't failures of luck. They were failures of imagination. An empire trying to fight in the ocean with a cavalry mindset, and a ruler trying to be 2 things at once. And perhaps the most haunting truth of all, Kublai Khan was in many ways a greater ruler than his grandfather. More just, more humane, more curious about the world. He simply was not a conqueror, and the machine he inherited required one. Somewhere in the imperial archives of modern Beijing, the Yuan, the official history of Kublai's dynasty, records his campaigns with careful bureaucratic neutrality. No blame assigned, no lessons drawn. History is patient that way. If this story made you think about power differently, subscribe. Every week we go somewhere the textbook skipped, and there is so much more to find.